What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Schrager Hour. We've got a great one up ahead. I want to start this week with some pleas to end the government shutdown. Yep, it's a political Schrager Hour. I'm dipping into politics. I am not going to shut up and dribble. It is time for me to get political, and here's why. I had a hell of a travel adventure on Sunday, and one of the beauties of being on the Schrager Hour is that we can share stories from the road. If you saw me on Monday Night Football at Lambeau on Monday, or you told someone you saw me at Monday Night Football at Lambeau on Monday, you're a liar. I didn't make it to Lambeau, folks. Did not make it to Lambeau. And for me to not make it to a Monday Night Football destination or any work assignment must mean that there was some crazy things to happen in between. The only other time I've missed a game in my life was for the birth of my son, and that was in October of 2016. We fast forward 9 years. My son is a 9-year-old, and we go to the week of November 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 2025. And let me lay it out for you. A 2 p.m. flight out of LaGuardia connects in Detroit at around 4:30. The connection from Detroit then goes to Green Bay. I've done this trip 1,000 times. I've covered 1,000,000 games in Lambeau. Everyone says, oh, but wouldn't you fly directly to Milwaukee? No, you fly right to Green Bay. You walk out of the airport and you're there. That is how I typically fly to Green Bay. And although there are a million other ways to get there, that was my choice. Well, we get to LaGuardia. The games are going on. I'm watching them on my phone, on my trusted NFL Plus app, and I'm also watching on the sport. And then I get the alert: your flight's been delayed 90 minutes. This is the world we're living in. I understand everybody's being delayed. It is what it is. We've got weather. We've got the government shutdown. Not going to be upset by this. Then we get an update: your flight's been delayed 2 more hours. Okay, this is what it is. I'm actually quite zen. I am in such a nihilist mode at this point. I can't control this. I can't control the flight. I can't control the FAA. I can't control anything. So I go to Starbucks. I get a giant iced coffee, and I'm like, all right, Rams Niners is kicking off. I'm going to get a seat at the bar, and I'm just going to watch a football game. And my flight, they'll tell me when I'm taking off. All right, say we're delayed 30 more minutes. Okay, I'm good. So now we're at about 3-hour delay. That's fine. That's fine. I'm good. Good. Texting with my wife, FaceTiming with the kids. We're good. The game is now starting. And then they say, all right, the flight, your plane just got there. We're going to board. So we go, we board. I get on. I'm feeling great. I'm watching the second half of the game on my phone. We've got the 4 o'clock game. I figure, all right, we're going to connect. I'll get to Green Bay. I might miss some of the Sunday night game, but I should be all right. And if I'm really being honest, if I miss some of the Sunday night game between the Chargers and the Steelers, it's not the worst thing in the world. I'll catch the highlights. We'll be all right. Guys, sat in that plane for 2 more hours. At one point, the pilot comes onto the thing and says, guys, I want to apologize. Obviously, we can't control this. We know you're uncomfortable, but I want to apologize. We are now 31 planes back. 31. I never heard the number 31. Never heard it. All right. So I'm sitting there. This is when you've got to just like let go. I'm sitting next to this very nice woman. We start talking a little bit, but then that conversation runs dry. And I'm like, am I committed to now have a 3-hour conversation with this person? She keeps on talking to me. I'm talking to her. It gets to that point. Okay. Then I made a joke. You want to hear my joke? You'll like this. Everyone, you'll like this. If you've got kids, you'll like this one. They go, all right, now we're like 6 or 7 on the runway. And this is about 2 hours in. And I just blurt out 6, 7. And I do this, the little hand motion thing. It fell so flat. I actually got groans. People did not like hearing that. So my audience of my son and his friends, that would have been killer. That would have been better than any monologue joke on Saturday Night Live. That would have taken down the Comedy Cellar with that audience. This audience of wayward travelers that have now been waiting 5 hours to take off from LaGuardia to Detroit, this did not go over well with them. This is why the government shutdown needs to end. If I'm making jokes that I think are funny, and that fall flat because everyone's so on edge and so no more patience, then we're truly in a place in this government in this world's history that we need to make a change. But you're wondering what happened, because I know you're wondering what happened. We take off. and I'm checking this app furiously during my flight. Is that connection to Green Bay? Am I going to be okay? Because obviously, there's no way I'm going to make that connection, but that flight is delayed too. It's happening. So we land at 10 p.m. or so, 10 p.m. in Detroit, and it says my connection to Green Bay is scheduled for 10:30. I'm like, this is unbelievable. Good thing I have my carry-ons. Good thing I didn't check any bags. I'm going to be all right. But it's not in the A terminal, which is a typical terminal over there at Detroit, McNamara Airport. Instead, no, it's actually in the C terminal. So then I got to take this like quick run because I got only 30 minutes here. You got to really hustle. So I get off the plane. I'm hustling. I'm hustling. It still says it's on time. Still says it's on time. You cannot write this any better. I get to the C terminal. I get to the gate and it says delayed until 1:09 a.m. 1:09 a.m. I haven't been awake at 1:09 a.m. in 20 years. 1:09 a.m. 1:09 a.m. Sounds like a joke. All right. Then I look at the board and it's like the craziest hours on this board. It's like, you know, Madison, Wisconsin flight delayed till 2:38 a.m. I'm like, why 2:38? Why not just 2:30 a.m.? Then it's Cincinnati is, 3:15 a.m. Like these are crazy, crazy times of the night, all delayed or canceled. The entire board just delayed or canceled. Now I got to make a big boy decision. What are we going to do here? Now, there's another gentleman on my flight who actually works for the NFL, also going to Green Bay. We link up. I'm like, what are you going to do? He's like, we got to wait it out. We got to wait it out. I'm like, really? You think we're going to wait it out? He's like, yeah, let's just wait it out and we'll figure it out together. I'm like, all right. So I've got a partner, a brother in arms here. Sure enough, hour later, boom, canceled. Like, oh gosh. All right. Now I've got several bosses at ESPN. I'm getting to know all these guys. One of them is a great guy named Seth Markman. Seth Markman runs their entire NFL operation and primarily Monday Night Football. Seth's got a feel for the NFL Live show, the NFL Countdown show, and just overall is a man who's got not only great control, but also he's very good at his job and is someone that I would look to for guidance and for maybe some leadership. I find Seth, he's in the airport as well because Seth was supposed to get into a connecting flight to Madison. That flight's canceled. I look at him like I'm like a 12-year-old boy. I'm like, Seth, what do we do? And Seth's like, let's get a hotel in Detroit and we figure it out. We'll figure it out. We'll all get on different flights, and then we'll chart our course. I'm like, all right, fine, Seth. Where are we staying? I'm like, there's a Westin that's in the Detroit airport. I've stayed at that Westin before. I know that Westin. It's actually lovely. In fact, a little hack might be for people who want to go to Ann Arbor for college football games. You fly to that hotel. You fly to Detroit. You go to the game and then you come back and you stay over at that Westin and then you pop out the next day. This is the stuff you learn after 20 years of traveling. So I'm like, we'll do the Westin. Seth looks at me with like a look as if I'm crazy. Like the Westin is long sold out. Every flight's delayed or canceled. It's 11 o'clock at night. So we go to a different hotel. I won't name what the hotel is. Not exactly the Westin, not exactly the Four Seasons. And Seth's like, we'll figure it out from there. I'm like, all right, I love a game plan. We get in the Uber, the Lyft, which Seth paid for nicely. We get in the Lyft and we get in the road and we're going and we're going. And sure enough, we get to the hotel and there's like one room left. And at first they start checking us in and I go first and Seth's looking at me like, you better not take the last room. I'm like, no. If you get if it's one room left, you take the bed, I'll take the bathtub. We'll be good. In fact, there were two rooms. So Seth gets a room. They say to me, are you okay with a room on the first floor? I say, ma'am, I am fine with any room. If you have a bed and a cot in the lobby, I'm good. So it's an airport hotel that's about 15 minutes from the airport. They give me the keys to the thing, go in, I open it up. First floor, windows are wide open with the curtains wide open. And there are two men smoking cigarettes and about 10 feet away from me outside the window. I swear to you guys, I nodded at the men like, good day, gentlemen. I gently closed the curtains and I crawled into that bed and started fitzing with my Delta app. All right. There's two men smoking cigarettes about 20 feet away from me. Of course, they're outside. I'm inside. I'm in a bed. I'm wearing full clothes because I will not do anything of the sort of letting my bare skin touch the body of this bed. I start futzing with the app, and it turns out there's a flight to Milwaukee at 7:30 in the morning. I can get on a direct to Milwaukee. From Milwaukee, it's a 2-hour drive. Guys, I will make it to Monday Night Football with no problem whatsoever. I can do this. All right. I book it. There's many seats left. I just do a same day change. I don't even have to call Delta itself. I do it all in the app. I'm good. I'm booked. There's a shuttle from this awesome hotel that takes us every 15 minutes before 7 a.m. to the airport. So in the morning, I sleep maybe 1 hour, one of the worst sleeps of my life. I'm so nervous about missing the flight. And I'm also so nervous about a cockroach biting me. Do cockroaches bite? I think they bite. I end up just brushing my teeth, showering, whatever, quick change, go to the lobby. I'm on my way to the airport. I check in through security. I get to the gate for this Milwaukee flight at 7 a.m. And in my eyes, I see this happening. I've never seen this happening in my life. On the actual gate, at the gate, it just goes from on time, 7:25 to canceled. Now I'm getting a little stressed because I'm here. It's 5:30 in the morning or it's 6 in the morning. Flight's been canceled. I don't have a flight back. I don't know how to get to Green Bay. They're telling me all the rental cars from the Detroit area are all booked out because every bin's been canceled. Now I'm like stranded. I'm like, all right, what are we gonna do here? Um, I text Seth, who's my boss. I'm like, I think I'm bailing on this thing. I think I'm going to go. And he's like, dude, go. We have 4 other people who can do NFL Live. Laura Rutledge is there as the host. You made a workman-like effort. Just get home. See if you can get home. I go, okay, but where am I going home? How do I get home? Every flight's canceled. Every flight's delayed. And you better believe, knowing New Yorkers, that there are no New York flights left. So I'm walking physically like in a tailspin in my head. And there is a LaGuardia flight that's boarding at the moment. I just, like a different part of my brain just clicks. I'm like, all right, I'm going for this. I go up to the desk. There's a line 3 deep. I wait my time. I'm being patient. I say, are there any seats left? They're like, there are not any seats left. I go, is there standby? She says, there is standby. I say, I will buy my ticket right now with my credit card if you could put me on standby. She's like, I don't know if you can even do that anymore. This is 2025. I don't know if you can buy a ticket at the gate. The lovely woman behind the desk says, okay, let me see what I can do. Takes my credit card, types in all my information, books me a standby seat. And sure enough, within 5 seconds, I get this alert. Bing, 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 bing. Like, you're in seat 48F or 48Z. I don't care. It's like literally, I'm sitting on the toilet in the back. I don't care. There's 100 people on this flight. I'm one of them. They're like, all right, you're on. I'm boarding. Now I've got to like figure, okay, I'm boarding. All right. So now I'm going back home to New York. I planned on being in Green Bay today. Light bulb goes off on my head. Now I got to do first take every Monday morning from wherever I am remote. I text Mike Foss and Pete McConville, who run all the morning show stuff, First Take and Get Up. I say, guys, I'm not going to be here. There's a chance I'm in New York if this flight actually takes off. Can I come on one of the shows? Can I come on First Take? Second later, they're like, yep, we'd love to have you in studio. Now I've got a purpose. So I'm missing Monday Night Football, but I can go in and I can do that. Now we're sitting on the runway. And if you've been in one of these runway deals where you're bored and you're excited and you start doing the gentle taxi, but you're not, and I'm like, oh, wait, this thing's not taking off. This isn't taking off. Meanwhile, my travel buddy Orlovsky sends me a text, see you in Green Bay. I'm like, no. You didn't get to Green Bay. He's like, yeah, I'm flying out in the 6 a.m. Going to connect in Detroit and we're going to get there. I'm like, okay, sure enough. Orlovsky had like 0 problems, got to Green Bay. He just flew out the morning of, like most normal humans do. I tried to be prudent and cautious. He's there. He's in a winter hat talking about Brian Daboll on Monday Night Football. I did not make it. Sure enough, as this thing is gently taxiing, the guy comes on and he's like, guys, I'm sorry to tell you, and everyone, the collective, he says, we're still like 6 behind on the run. I'm like, 6 behind? We can do it. I almost tried the 6-7 joke again. I didn't because it fell flat and I was not a human. Sure enough, within 20 minutes, we're in the air. I get the Wi-Fi going. I'm preparing for first take. They're like, yep, come on in. I get off the plane in LaGuardia. It's like 9 a.m. I'm like, can I do the last hour first take? They're like, absolutely. Get an Uber. Boom, boom, boom. I'm dressed like fine because I had my suit and everything. I start putting on my clothes. I get to the studio in Manhattan. Guys, I did a full hour of first take, and then I did the 2 p.m. Sports Center. Then I did the 5 p.m. Sports Center, and then I watched NFL Live from home, like the kid who didn't make the team. But I was so zen throughout this whole thing that, yes, I want the government shutdown to end, but I want to pat myself on the back. But I also want to pat every single person traveling over the next few weeks and warn you, if you plan on it, you can have no expectations. You can have no hopes here. You have to go in with a kindness in your soul, and you have to realize you might be seeing some men smoking cigarettes outside your hotel room at 2 a.m, and you just have to handle it, because until this thing gets settled, this might be what we're looking at. I've got a flight to Vegas on Sunday. I'll be there hopefully for Cowboys versus Raiders. But if you were wondering why I missed my first game assignment in about 10 years, that is why. And now that my travel story is out of the way, let's talk about the actual game, because I thought it was pretty alarming for the Green Bay Packers. And I know there's a lot of people calling for Matt LaFleur's head. I'd like to say hold off on that. And this whole hot seat thing, there's a new um, thing we do now in sports media. Maybe it's not new. I feel like it's new, where a team loses 2 games in a row and suddenly it's, is he on the hot seat? And nobody knows, because they're not talking to the president or the owner, and those are the people who make those decisions. But we did this with Aaron Glenn after they had another loss, the way they did against the Broncos overseas. It was like, is he on the hot seat? He had coached 6 games at that point. Mike McDaniel, is he on the hot seat? Well, okay, they just fired their GM, but they kept their coach. They said he's going to be coaching the rest of the way, and then sure enough, they won this week. And you go down the list. Now, the Brian Daboll situation, which we're going to get to, that was all, several years in the making and several weeks in the making. But I don't think LaFleur you're going to put in that list. However, Monday night was pretty concerning. You hold Saquon Barkley to 66 yards rushing. You hold AJ Brown to 2 catches, 13 yards. You hold the Philadelphia Eagles juggernaut offense to 10 points, and you lose at home in a spotlight game that everyone had circled on their calendars back in April when we got the schedule release. That's alarming. Now, I know there's questions about Jordan Love. I have him. I don't know. I'd like to see him return to the form he did in 2023 at the end of that season in the playoff game against Dallas, where he was lighting it up. He hasn't been that guy since. There's also concerns about the roster now, because they had Bo Melton on the field at wide receiver in big moments. Bo Melton was a 6th or 7th wide receiver who was actually being played at corner all training camp in the early part of the season, and has had snaps at corner because they felt they were going to make a transition and use him there. So when you have an injury to Jaden Reed, and you have an injury to Romeo Doubs, and you have Tucker Kraft, who is just becoming George Kittle, and he's not there anymore, now you're relying on Bo Melton in big spots, who might very well end up being a good NFL player and might be a fine receiver, but you weren't expecting Bo Melton to be that guy if Bo Melton was playing corner just a few weeks back and is a valuable part of the defense as well. There's something up with Green Bay, because the last 2 weeks after we crowned them after that Pittsburgh win, which in hindsight wasn't exactly some Herculean effort, gosh, horrible against Carolina and horrible against the Eagles. And yet the defense is good. So at some point, something has to get going here. You got an offensive head coach. You got Jordan Love. You've got Jacobs, obviously, in the backfield. And I know there's injuries across the board, but like, they need to turn it around, and they don't have a full season to do that. They've got to figure it out now. So Packers went from the 1 seed after that win against the Steelers to now the 7 seed, barely hanging on to a playoff spot. Concerns with them. Eagles, find a way to win. You don't apologize for any win. And they have now beaten Tampa in Tampa, the Chiefs in Arrowhead, the Packers in Lambeau, and have taken care of the Rams at home and the Cowboys at home. That's pretty good. Like, if I'm the Eagles, I'll sign up for that right now for where they're at. And I thought Jalen Phillips, big trade deadline acquisition, made 2 huge plays yesterday, one at the end of the first half and then one in the fourth quarter. So Jalen Phillips, obviously a bold move by Howie Roseman. It works out. But the 2 teams I want to talk to before we get to our guests, and the 2 teams I want to talk about are the Rams and the Seahawks, because as much as we circled this game, Packers Eagles is like NFC Championship preview. Hello. The Rams and the Seahawks could very well be the top 2 teams in the NFC right now. Let's start with the Rams. Matthew Stafford on an ungodly torrid pace right now in what he's doing. 20 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. his last 4 games. 20 touchdowns, 0 interceptions his last 4 games. MVP like start to the season. And if it wasn't for what Drake May is doing, I think we might be saying it's a runaway MVP for the 37-year-old Matthew Stafford. But what Sean McVay is doing, who, by the way, was a guest a couple of weeks back, he's got this new deal where he's playing 4 tight ends at once, and then they just pound you with Kieran Williams and Blake Corum, and then you've got 2 of the best receivers in Nakua and Adams. The offense is great. The defense has been good. And they're going up against a Seattle team that has been just as impressive. I mean, they were up 35-0 against the Cardinals in the first half this week. And it's the 3rd different time they've had a 30-point lead in the first half of a game, or they've scored 30 points in the first half of a game this season. That's wild. Their defense is loaded. 3 guys in the middle, DeMarcus Lawrence, who, by the way, the Cowboys said, we're good without you. Obviously, Leonard Williams, a guy who played for the Giants and the Jets in this market and is now having a career resurgence in Seattle. He's in there. And then Big Byron Murphy's been great. They are so good on defense. I cannot wait for this one. Odd that it's not a Sunday night game. Odd that it's not a spotlight game with Brady and Burkhardt. From what I gather, it's Olsen and Davis, which is a fine crew. Obviously, everyone loves what Greg and Joe do, but not being positioned as like the game of the week, which is strange to me. It seems like the NFL, if you want to get into the broadcasting weeds, kind of put a fortress around this Broncos Chiefs game, not thinking that the Rams and Seahawks would be an electric game. It is. That's the game of the week. That might be the game of the season, and it's part 1 of part 2 as far as the 2 most impressive teams in the NFC up until this point. I know the Eagles beat the Rams, but like right now, if you're saying who's playing the best football, it's the Rams and the Seahawks, and they're going to go at it, and I cannot wait for this one. It's at SoFi. It's interesting. It's a good one. Our player of the week, though, doesn't come from either one of those teams. It comes from a guy who was on this podcast earlier this season and obviously went to Berlin and showed what he's got on the world stage. Jonathan Taylor had 32 carries for 244 yards, 3 rushing touchdowns, also had 3 catches for 42 yards. And it was the most rushing yards and scrimmage yards ever in an international game. And he did that in a game where it was back and forth with the Atlanta Falcons. Jonathan Taylor is on an absolutely torrid pace right now. And if it wasn't for the fact that we don't vote quarterbacks as MVP every year, you would have Jonathan Taylor right there in the conversation. In fact, almost a more interesting race right now is who is the offensive player of the year. Let's say the quarterback position wins MVP. Offensive player of the year is either going to go to Jonathan Taylor or Jackson Smith and Jigba right now. I cannot wait to see how this plays out. Both teams are electric. Both teams are playing well. But Seahawks and Colts, who had either one of these guys in that conversation before the season starts? I love that. Our sports media winner of the week, though, is a current player. And not a current player who has a podcast that's higher on the charts than this one, but a current player who spent his bye week watching football. Yes, Patrick Mahomes is my sports media winner of the week. And it's for the fact that he decided to spend his bye week at College Game Day down in Lubbock, Texas, to be a part of an electric atmosphere. I got to tell you, I've never been to Lubbock, Texas. I know the people who went there. And let's start with Cliff Kingsbury. Let's go to Danny Amendola. Let's go to Patrick Mahomes. Those 3 guys that I know pretty well, all 3 of those guys like bleed Texas Tech. So I was a little bit skeptical when you've got some games like Iowa, Oregon, or you've got Alabama, LSU, that Game Day was going to Lubbock, Texas for a BYU Texas Tech game. And then I put the TV on and I started on Friday. This coach, Joey McGuire, came on McAfee on Friday and had me running through a wall. Like, I've met Joey one time at the draft a couple of years back, and he was cool and it was great. And I was like, all right, here comes Texas Tech. He came from Matt Rule's team at Baylor, and he comes over here. And I'm like, all right, this guy's interesting. He had me ready to run through a wall. Former high school coaching legend, was at with Matt Rule for a couple of years, and then comes over here to Texas Tech and has been unbelievable. So you have him getting me ready to run through a wall with McAfee. You've got an incredible vibe early in the morning there. And then you have this moment from McAfee and Mahomes, and then that pony, that horse going off into the sunset. Unbelievable moment. Take a listen.
This is the football God's dream. This is God's country. This is the Texas Tech Red Raiders time. And I'm rolling with the Texas Tech Red Raiders in the biggest game in the history of BYU. Now, there is a pony that's about to hit this field. The name of said horse is Centennial Champion. What it leads is a group of men who represent an area of Texas that epitomizes loyalty, family, tradition, and football. Patrick Mahomes, you're an icon, brother. Lubbock, Texas, you are beautiful. And today, you're about to witness a game that's going to showcase the Big 12's best. And we got a masked rider.
That's beautiful. That's football. I've never seen it.
Jones AT&T Stadium.
So kudos to Mahomes, our sports media winner, but I'm based in New York, and there's nothing like big news in New York. And on Monday afternoon, around 1:00, the red alarms went off on my phone. The text started blowing up. It had come in. Brian Daboll had been fired as the head coach of the New York Giants. I take no joy in discussing it. I love Brian Daboll. Great dude. I think he's a very good coach. But he was shown the door, and Joe Schoen was not only told he's going to stay, but the general manager, Joe Schoen, was going to play a role in the next coaching hire for the New York Giants. What that means, we'll see. But he's not going anywhere. And for that, I thought we should have a podcast dedicated to the New York Giants head coaching search. We like to mix it up. Sometimes we have one guest. Sometimes we have two guests. In this case, we've got three different guests. Our three guests are Jordan Raanan, who covers the Giants for ESPN and has a brand new Giants book that is awesome out. All right. We've got Eli Racks, who has one of the top Giants podcasts and blogs that's out there amongst fans. And then we've got my buddy Ditro, Todd Ditrapani, who is my longest Giants fan friend, who's going to give some fan perspective, but also do so in maybe his own little way. We're going to have all three of those guys and myself, who's got some information as well, right here talking Giants coaching search after this. All right, this is a very special Schrager Hour podcast because we got breaking news yesterday. There's been about 24 hours to digest it, and I wanted to bring in different vantage points here. Jordan Raanan is what I would say one of the top team beat reporters / guys that covers a team in the NFL right now. He's working for ESPN, but I've known him for a long, long time. And he also has a new book out called New York Giants, A Curated History of Big Blue, the franchise. And I'm going to tell you this straight up, Jordan, as you're on as a guest. You know this because I've texted you 8 times. I read this book in about 4 days and I devoured it and I absolutely loved it. Amazing
Appreciate
job.
it, man.
Congratulations on it.
Yeah, thanks a lot, man. It's right up your alley. Giant stories, past, Super Bowl years. That's your childhood right there in 300 pages.
It's everything. And I'll tell you, it's good. I've got it up here, but I would tell everyone to get it. And there's the section I love. Then we're going to get to the Daboll stuff, but just real quick, I have a total great fondness, but also maybe some blind spots on the Fossil era. You really detail the Fossil era with Sean Payton and John Fox in this book. And I'm like, there's a lot of stuff. I didn't realize John Fox wasn't popular in the locker room when he first got there.
Yeah, I didn't know that either. You know who actually told me when I was talking to Jesse Armstead? He's the one who told me at first. He was like, we're like, who the heck is this guy? He walks in the room and he says, if you guys want to do anything in this league, you better do this, this, and this. And they were like, wait, I thought we're already pretty good players in this league. And what was it? All of his Pro Bowl seasons came under John Fox, I think.
Is that right?
I think it's something like that, yeah, in his career.
I love that. So that was a fantastic way to start the week because I finished this book and I'm like, all right, I'm going to talk to Jordan about being a Giant. And then we get the news. Now, our next guest on this podcast is a gentleman named Eli Racks. I had Eli on my old podcast and he blew it up. He is a Giants fan, but also has one of the best Giants podcasts that's so passionate. That's his New York Revival. Eli, welcome back to the show.
I appreciate you having me, brother, man. Can't wait to talk some Giants. Ready to rock.
Let's do that. And then the last one is maybe my oldest childhood friend, my best friend from summer camp, who I talk about Giants football all day long with and has his own theories, his own thoughts. He calls himself a civilian, which I love, meaning I am not in the media. I am just the voice of the fan, Mr. Todd Ditrapani. Ditra, welcome to the podcast.
Peter Schrager, thank you for having me back. I appreciate that. That is exactly what I am as a civilian. I'm not a civilian. I don't have a podcast. I don't have any, there's nothing out there for. I just watch a lot of football and love the Giants.
I got 20 Ditros texting me every Sunday when stuff goes bad. Like, can you leave him in Chicago? Like, I can't tell you how many of those I got the other day.
I try to time it out because I know sometimes Peter's traveling on Sunday. So if he's on an airplane, then I know I got him on a plane and he's got nowhere to go. So he's got to respond.
My friends don't care. I had to take myself off the group text at one point because I'm like, guys, I'm working here. You're like, you can't send 150 text messages in 2 hours while I'm trying to.
But isn't that it? Like, Jordan, like I'm with you as well. And like my friends will like send like, and I'll just name whoever, but like they'll send like a Dove Kleiman tweet or a Diana Rossini story and be like, "Oh, Giants!" And I'm like, guys, I didn't read it yet, and I don't know if it's real, and like I don't know what to. I haven't vetted it. Like it's like, and like Jordan, you want to be a part of the group text, you want to get all the memes,
I know.
but you also are like, if I voice it, I don't know where they. I don't know. Yeah, you get it. You get it.
I can't even tell you what my stock response is because it's not made for air right now.
Okay.
That'll be after the show. I'll tell you what I respond to everybody.
All right. So Daboll gets fired yesterday, and from the accounting that I've got, and Jordan, I'm sure you've heard the same from your sources. It was basically a shock to even Joe Schoen in the morning. They didn't know this was going down. It was a Mara and Tisch decision. They bring in Daboll. They tell him he's out, and then they bring in Shane. They tell him he's sticking around and he's going to help. And then Mike Kafka is going to be named the interim coach. Kafka then speaks to the team, and from what I'm told, talking to sources in that room, was very deferential and very respectful to Daboll, saying like, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Daboll. Like, Daboll's the man, and they're making this change, but I'm going to give you everything I've got to try to turn this thing around and put my best foot forward. Where we are at right now as we record this on Tuesday is that Joe Schoen is going to play a primary role in the search for the next Giants head coach. Don't know what that means beyond that. That is what I've been told, that he is a primary part of this, with obviously ownership and whoever else is going to play a role there. And the rest of the coaching staff seems to be staying. I will start with the fan perspective. Ditro, I want to bring it from the total fan perspective. Where did Brian Daboll go wrong, and when did he lose you, and when was it okay for you to say, okay, let's show him the door?
Brian Daboll went wrong in the one place where you cannot go wrong, and that, leaving aside the historical catastrophic losses this year, because that happens from year to year with various teams, the one thing that he could not do this year was put Jaxson Dart in a position to get injured. As plain as it is, Brian Daboll is pretty much considered, call him the CEO of a $10 billion company right now. That's what the Giants were valued at fairly recently. And the one thing, when you're on that C-suite level, you cannot commit gross negligence that leads to the company having a failure in a major way. And say what you want, he's the head coach, everything goes through him. And the play designs that they were putting out there put Jaxson Dart in a position to get injured. I'm not even talking about, if a non-contact injury, you could go out and call 35 straight passes. The play design of a pass is that the offensive line is going to get it blocked up. You'll have some time to throw. You'll be protected. You throw the ball. You may get hit. You may not get hit. That's part of it. But lining him up back there constantly and calling designed runs constantly is a reckless disregard for his safety. And what happened over time, and it didn't even just happen this past week. Yeah. It seemed to be happening every week. This isn't the first time that he had concussion issues. We watched him go under the blue tent and have to get it 4 times. Exactly. 4 times he's run into this problem. He's only played 7 games. What are we doing here? And they were not exactly where they're 7-2 or 8-1 and we're fighting to win the division. You're 2-7. All you have to do is make sure you get through this season without Dart getting injured, and he would be back next season. You could look past horrible losses. You can. That's just all part of the game. Sometimes teams collapse. You can never look past lining Dart up. And it wasn't just this week. You go back and watch the games. They're inside the 10-yard line last week against the Eagles when the game is out of hand.
It's over.
The game's over.
Yeah.
They're slamming Dart up the middle on design running plays. Somewhere along the line, he's going to get injured. And when that happens, there's only one person to blame. You don't even have to blame the play call. The head coach, Brian Daboll, can go out and say, guys, we're not running him anymore. Yeah. That's it. That doesn't happen anymore. And what ended up happening? All right, he's concussed, and that's it. The season's over. Under no circumstance can Dart play another snap this season. That's it. Season's over.
You're putting him on ice? You're done.
You can't put it back out there.
You can't put him on ice.
Yeah, you can't put him on ice, man.
This is the NFL. But I get your point.
Jordan, when did you know, covering the team, you were in Chicago, did you think it was over that night?
I did. You know what? We went to dinner, a bunch of us, and we actually, before we left the stadium, I even took a poll when we were walking away from the locker room with a bunch of reporters. I'm like, you guys think he's done tonight? Like tomorrow? Like, you think he's fired? And I honestly, I thought the answer was yes. You're right that the final straw was the quarterback getting injured. And I went on the radio on Friday and they said, do you think Brian Daboll is going to get fired during the season? And I said, I don't think Brian Daboll is going to get fired this season, but with this caveat. If he gets the quarterback injured, Brian Daboll will get fired. And what happened? Of course, like, you knew he was going to get injured. By the way, a player took me aside in the locker room during, like, after the game. He said, "Man, you got a voodoo doll. How did you know he was going to get injured? Right? How did you my eyes? Dude, I saw him to get 3 concussion tests already this year. Like, of course. But here, when you say why did Brian Daboll get fired, that was just the final straw. Right? There was bigger problems. They went 11-33. They went 3-14. This stuff doesn't happen by accident. To me, it was a lack of consistency. They were always very concerned, too concerned, in my opinion, about everything else going on outside. And players, a lot of players have told me this. They're worried about perception. They're worried about what's going on outside. It's a waste of your time. You can't control that stuff. That stuff is going to run wild. You're in New York. There's no way around it. You know, their lack of consistency with decisions was shown in that. Remember, they skipped the backup quarterback. They went to DeVito. They went back to Locke. Then they went back to DeVito. Then they went back to Locke again. Oh, by the way, Mike Kafka was the play caller. He pulled it from him in the middle of a game.
And now it's Daboll, yeah.
He gave it. Then Daboll took it over. Guess what? Mike Kafka got back play calling. Now he's the interim head coach. It's almost hard to believe. So, yes, these are like little small things, but it's a microcosm of, I think, the program that he ran. There were too many cracks. It was just too much fly by the seat of your pants. Not enough consistency, and you could even see it. 4 years in, I couldn't tell when they were going for it on fourth down or not,
because there was no trend. Yeah,
it was always just like built on emotion, and that's what we fell in love with. And Giants fans fell in love with Brian Daboll at the beginning. Was that emotion was amazing, right? Remember the Tennessee game? He's fist pumping down the sideline.
Yeah, I just thought of
Juicy.
I just thought of the fourth down flea flicker overseas last year. I just thought of that one. That one just came to mind. So yeah.
I just knew what you were going to get.
I want to address what you just, because the way that you just described Daboll the past couple of years, he was coaching out of desperation. That is the exact definition of what you were just. And that's fine when you're coaching out of desperation with a third-string quarterback in Tommy DeVito. But when you're a desperate coach and you're putting the franchise in danger because you're desperately trying to win, you up your chances of injury occurring. And that's exactly what happened. And he can't be trusted with the crown jewel anymore. He's got to go. That's it.
Eli,
the perception thing, like you're running QB draws because you want the game to be closer at the end of the game. Like, don't worry about that stuff. Yep. It's not.
That's all desperation.
It's not important.
Eli, what was your stance on Dave? Were you ready for it to be over?
No, absolutely. I mean, unfortunately, the writing was on the wall, right? This team lacked identity. They couldn't find themselves. We know what the Giants were. Were they a passing team, running team? We thought they were a running team because Jaxson Dart was running all these RPOs and running the ball and etc. But at some point, when you put the crown jewel, like you just said, in harm's way, the 4th concussion protocol that he's in at this point, and not only that, you had an insult to injury, right? The team was just fined $200,000 and him $100,000 for him going into the blue tent because he was desperate to have him back out there to win the game. So Brian Daboll had to go for that particular reason. And not only that, the emotional roller coaster of winning and beating the Chargers one week and then losing to New Orleans and then winning versus the Eagles, then losing to another game. Guys, the emotional roller coaster was just too much for ownership to handle at this point. And then they were on a losing game streak at this point. So at what point do you pull the plug on this thing? And I called for this 2 weeks ago. I was like, hey, you got to give Mike Kafka a shot here. Because at this point, I don't think Daboll, he's only in love with Jaxson Dart. I don't think he's in any other meeting room as the head coach at this point. Like, you can see they were unprepared. They were out-coached. each and every game here. And the only thing he fell in love with was Jaxson Dart, where he risked $100,000 to go in there to see if he was okay. So no, it was time to pull the plug on this experiment. And let's see what Joe Schoen has to offer, which we'll get to. But yeah, after that game, it was like done. It's time to get this guy out.
All right, let's. If we're doing a snake draft in fantasy league, I'm going right back to you. What was your reaction when you heard Joe Schoen is going to help lead the new coaching search?
Are you kidding me? Like here's the part. Here's the problem. He is a lame duck GM, right? Because if another head coach in here comes in here as a hot name, and he looks remotely, he's great out there with the other team, whatever the case is. If this roster isn't producing, you're gonna be like, man, this is the roster. This is not the head coach at this point. Let's look at Drew Phillips, right? Drew Phillips is one of the guys Joe Schoen draft. He can't cover himself at night when it's cold. You know what I mean? The guy's crazy. Then you look at Evan Neal's coming in here as a top #1 draft pick, first round pick at this point, right? You look at him, you go, man, you can't even trade him for a box of peanuts and Cracker Jacks in the 7th inning stretch. Like, you can't see this guy. These guys have no talent here. So then you look at the Kayvon Thibodeaux of the world. He's a B player, and you drafted him high as well. Then you look at Abdul Carter, half a sack. Like, these guys are supposed to be game changers within that top pick, and you can't get them to produce at the level you need to. Now, hey, could be coaching. But if another coach comes in here and these guys are still producing the same, you got to look at that roster and go, man, like you look at Jalen Hyatt, he can't even he can't run a route tree. It's just a go route. He can't catch a ball to save his life. It's just so many names we can pick out of these groups that he drafted in, which is 99% of his roster. These guys can't produce at a high level besides the Jaxson Dart and this Cam Scatterbull, which he probably hit on in the Malik Neighbors. But it's in question. These guys are B-rolls. There's no star in this team, and he missed a lot, unfortunately, Joe Schoen in this draft. So I'm looking at it, I go, man, I think it's a roster issue more than a head coaching as well. And I think he should have went with Brian Daboll and give Brandon Brown a shot.
Yeah, Jordan, you cover the team, obviously. It was like these guys were always lockstep. And then this year, obviously, there's a report in the New York Post, but it felt like they were separating just a little bit also. And now Schoen stays and is going to have a hand in who's taking the next coach. Like this very rarely works out where it's, okay, the GM stays, but the coach goes, or the coach goes. Usually you like to have these guys go in together. What's your reaction?
That's my thing. We could sit here and debate about the talent all we want. My thing is having a GM existing beforehand, and then you go to hire a head coach. Let's look at the track record of how often that's been successful. Go down the list. Guess what? It's not a lot. More often than not, it turns into a mess. That's what the Bears did, right? That's what teams like the Browns have done. The Jets do consistently. And guess what? It doesn't work out for them. Now, you heard dating back, I think I heard probably at the beginning of the year, there was a separation between church and state to a degree. And it was like, they think that they should have been better than 3-14 last year. There's more talent than 3-14 on that roster. Now you're sitting here, they're 2-8. I'm guarantee you, if I go talk to them, they'll say, yeah, we think there's more talent than being a 2-8 team on the roster. Trust me, they didn't plan on coming into the season and being 2-8. They thought they could be a contender, 500-ish type team.
Yeah, we were together. We were together at that Jets-Giants intercamp practice this summer, and you and I looked at each other and said, look, I don't know about the offense, but the defense is pretty good. The defense hasn't been good.
No, it hasn't been good. Now, the depth, I think, is a big problem that we kind of love overlooking that. And they had some injuries and they're just not good enough. And late in games, they're wilting. But if you think about it, I heard back to last year's that they were like, you know what, we have more talent. And now what do you see? You see the owners come out and say, oh yeah, we like the young collection of talent that Joe Schoen has built. So that's that tells you exactly what that is. The owners are have been convinced that Joe Schoen and the front office have brought in enough talent that they should be a better team. So they decided we're going to keep them. Now, the one caveat, just like we said with the quarterback, is, and I think this is why, we don't hear that, like Joe Schoen, they didn't come back and flat out say Joe Schoen's coming back.
Nope.
There's always that caveat of, what if there's a coach that comes in here and that's the coach we want and he doesn't want to work with Joe Schoen, or he's only coming if we don't have Joe Schoen. We've seen it before. This is situations like this. Well, Jacksonville, right?
Yep.
They had Trent Baalke, which also was just, think about that. These are the waters you're swimming in. Like, that's a situation, I guess, that can arise. But, we'll have to figure that out in the meantime. In the meantime, Joe Schoen's going to run the search, which I do think gives him a really good chance to come back. Like, if you said to me, put a percentage on it now, 90% Joe Schoen will be back and 10% won't.
All right, Ditro, we go to you, our fan perspective on this. Joe Schoen comes back, Brian Daboll out. Now Joe Schoen talking to the Maras and the Tishes and saying, here's who I think we should bring in for interviews.
So I go in the other direction from these guys. To me, the general manager, the time frame, the runway of time that maybe it takes in order to get your guys in there, if you will, it's just a longer time frame that you have to allow a GM than a head coach. Because a head coach, we've seen around the league, you get the right head coach in there, it doesn't matter about the talent on the team. The right head coach is able to will wins out of that team. He's able to design wins from his team. You go back, I don't have to just sit here and name examples the whole time, but just right now, who was another horrible team in the league last year? The Patriots were just as bad as the Giants last year. Mm-hmm. We look up a year later, they're getting ready to win the AFC East right now and slam the Bills championship window, completely close on them 1 year later because they made the right hire at head coach. GM is very important. Obviously, we would all agree on that. But, you know, Sean McVay took the same Rams team that
same GM
immediately to the Super Bowl. No problem whatsoever. Kyle Shanahan shows up, backup quarterbacks last week. Nick Bosa's out. Fred Warner's out. Everybody's out of the game. They completely dismantled the Giants. It doesn't matter who the GM of the 49ers is or who the GM of the Giants is to a certain extent. The talent gap in this league is so narrow. Every team is so very, very close when it comes to the talent, except, of course, at the quarterback position. Sometimes that completely and totally changes everything. But the Giants have a quarterback right now that can go out and get it done and play well and score and do things that the Giants haven't had for the past couple of years. But the difference between that and a great head coach, it's completely different. You almost think, well, if we hired Mike Vrabel last year, we'd be 8-2 right now. It is possible to do that. It is possible to hire the right head coach and take this collection of guys next year and go out and start 8-2. It does happen around the league. You don't have to sit in the doldrums like the Jets and the Browns and whomever forever and just constantly be 3-14. All it takes is to hire the right head coach one time, and you're not thinking about it anymore.
You're proving my point, though. You bring the coach in, and then he brings his GM. So that's to be the recipe.
That should be the recipe, but it doesn't have to be the recipe. You hire the right head coach. You say, this is the guy picking the players. Look, we have a franchise left tackle. We have a franchise wide receiver coming back. We have 4 first-round picks along the defensive line. We're about to have probably either the number 1 or number 2 overall pick in the NFL draft. There's a lot here for a new head coach that he could come in and say, you know what? I don't care who the GM is. I'm good. This roster is ready to go right now. I'm going to bring my guys in as the assistants, and we're going to go 7-3 next year by Thanksgiving.
It's funny you say that because yesterday I was on SportsCenter, and they asked me about Joe Schoen. I said, well, look, Malik Neighbors is a great player. Jaxson Dart seems to be the future at quarterback. Abdul Carter can play. Theo Johnson seems to be able to play. You go down the list, Tyrone Tracy, Scatterboo, and then I had a Giants fan friend text me and go, stop covering for Shane. You could draft that well in the first round when you've got top 10 picks and you've got all that, and you've got all the draft capital and you're trading future picks to move up to get Dart. I'm like, I get it. So it goes both ways. Like, yes, he's got great players, but they haven't won. And then is it really such a skill to draft when you've got first round picks in the top 10 every year? I don't know.
You know what they say? You know what they say? A dog finds a steak dinner in a trash can from time to time, right? And that's all it was. The guy hit.
Amazing line. Amazing
right?
line.
The guy hit. Listen, you could have drafted those guys. Those guys was actually on a lot of people's boards as far as draft analysts, as far as where they were going to get drafted at. They were high on some of these boards. So, of course, he's going to hit on some of them, but he's got to hit more. Like, if you really go down that list.
Don't disagree.
I say this all the time. You don't go 3-14 by accident. You don't go 2-8 by accident. You don't go 11-33 by accident. It's all these decisions. All these decisions build up and get you there. Yeah, he's gotten some right, but he hasn't gotten enough right.
Let me ask. I want to ask Jordan and Eli this because Ditro and I text all the time. One of the things that we always laugh about is, for now, decades, the Giants will just trot out that 07 and 11 team. And it's like, we're still living in an era where every halftime we're honoring a new one. And even in the home opener, Brandon Jacobs is out there and he's not even wearing like a real jersey. And we're like, what? So do you guys, Eli, you're a fan of the Giants. You do this. Like, Do you feel that also, that we're living in this market, Giants fans are living in a bygone era from yesteryear?
Well, when I first started covering the team, it was 2013. So you were talking about like right on the on the backside of the second championship there with that Eli team, and every year after that they would start 0-2, and all you would hear was they started 0-2 in 2007, and then by like the fifth time we're all like, all right, we get it. This isn't the 07 team. You get that, right? Like they weren't pretty good the year before, and the year before that, and the year before that. It's a different. But you know what? The Giants know that too. To the point where they made an effort this year to say, we want to promote these Giants.
Yes.
We're not going to sit there. And if you go around and you look at the marketing around the building when you go in, it's not Harry Carson and Lawrence Taylor. The pictures on the wall are the pictures of this year's team. It's Dexter Lawrence and Brian Burns. So trust me, the Giants realize that as well. You can't keep living in the past all the time.
You know, and it's funny because you want to have that feel-good moment. You want to have that Giants pride. Everything Giants fans love to hear, right? So you see these guys, and it's also special. It feels amazing. But after all this losing in this decade, we're done. All right? We're over it. We're tired of seeing Brandon Jacobs out there with the jersey where you're like, man, where'd he get that from? Like, what Stop and Shop he got that from? All right? We're tired of looking at this stuff here. We want to start creating new futures for here, new eras here. And the Giants, unfortunately, is behind the 8 ball on this here. Yes, it's great that we have 2 trophies. It's great that every time we go 0-2, there's a chance us fans will have because we're trying to relive those moments. But those are all far, far gone and few in between, or whatever the word is. Those are out of here. So as a fan, I'm tired of seeing that. Fix this.
The optimism is in Jaxson Dart. That's the chance that it might.
Yes,
that's
of course. Of course.
What you have now. I do just want to add that also means that in the upcoming search, it's probably Antonio Pierce and Spagnuolo.
That's what I was leading to. I was starting with that.
We're a year away from the 20-year anniversary of the 2007 team. They'll just be throwing flowers at them for the next 2 years about that. It's enough of that.
Insane.
Which is exactly why I even asked that, because already, and Jordan, you had a tweet today pointing to Spags and Pierce, and I did one yesterday that said keep an eye on Spags because I know he's still very well liked in that building.
They're gonna give him an interview. That's why I put it on there. That's a respect thing. I couldn't help myself. I'm sorry.
But if you're looking for the Giants to do this fresh, young, totally outside the box hire, they did it with Joe Judge and they did it with Brian Daboll. Those are 2 names that were not head coaches beforehand. Joe Judge was your real outside the box hire. He was a special teams coach in New England. I think this is a good segue to our next part of this, and I love where we're going. We're going to go one by one, but each one of you are going to say a name. And if you had to draw up your dream list, and Jordan, I know you're not a fan, so let's just do it from your perspective of like who you'd like to see the Giants do it. And then Eli and Ditro, you guys go from the fan perspective, who you want to see. We'll start with Ditro, who I've known since the Ray Handley era of Giants football. If you could have anyone be the head coach of the New York Giants, who would it be?
This might surprise you, and I might take a little flack, but I'm bringing in Mike McCarthy. I want.
Wow!
I know. I want experience. I want a track record. I just mentioned the New England Patriots 5 minutes ago. They went experience, track record. They're going to win the division. They're off and rolling. What does Mike McCarthy do? He constantly wins 12 games everywhere we go. What's the knock on him? Oh, well, yeah, he won 12 games, and then they didn't get through the playoffs. What are we talking about here? We go 3-14 every year. I would kill for constantly winning 12 games and then rolling the dice in the playoffs. He's got the young quarterback that he can work with. He has a track record to do that. Even looking back at his Dallas days, as much as you want to say it, even when Dak would get hurt, they would still win games. Andy Dalton and Cooper Rush, they were still winning games. When the Giants lose their starting quarterback, the wheels just completely explode off and they become the worst team in the league. If you're asking me my number one guy, give me the track record, experience, come in. He's a professional. He's run 2 of the biggest brands in the league, in the Packers and the Cowboys. So don't worry about the media getting all over him or anything to do with that. Just come in, bring your guys in, go out and win games. If they come out next year and they go 12-5 and we lose in the divisional round of the playoffs, Oh, well, we went 12-5 to win the division around the playoffs. It's been forever since we've even sniffed the playoffs. I understand the Daboll 1 year, but that Daboll first year, they won 9 games. They snuck in. It was a completely different style of winning. I want the guy that constantly wins games. If you're asking me my number one
I love
choice.
it. I love it. Eli, if you could have anybody be the head coach of the New York Giants, who are you picking?
Well, I do have a favorite, and I know you wanted to get from a fan's perspective. So if you don't mind, I'm going to give you just a quick 2, okay? So my favorite, Jeff Hafley, the DC coordinator down in Green Bay. Yes, rookie head coach, but that guy's within the top 10 in all statistical categories within the NFL right now, doing what he got to do. Not only that, man, Bergen County's finest. Oh, my God, yes. You already know that. All about that, Peter Schrager. You already know. All right. But also a Staten Island guy, Wagner College, man, grew to the ranks in the NFL. Why not give him the head coaching job? Leader of men. I think he'll turn his team around. And not only that, man, Boston College is the experience of head coaching experience that he has, which Tom Coughlin came from there as well. Yep. All right. So shout out to Tom Coughlin. All right. So why not give him a shot, man? He can actually lead some players over here. So, and the last time the Giants had a defensive coordinator run the team was Bill Parcells. So give him a shot here. Let's see what he can do. And I think he'll be successful here. Now, I think what fans really want here, though, really quickly. And
who do the fans want?
The fans, I think they want, not a Mike McCarthy. Shout out to Mike McCarthy, which is 500 in the postseason. I don't want to see that. This is the reason why he gets fired here, all right?
In the postseason. We're the worst team in the league for 20
I tell you,
this just wants consistency. That's all he wants.
Here's the consistency they're looking for. Here's the consistency they're looking for. And it's also going to help Joe Schoen if he survives this year. Bill Belichick. All right. Bill Belichick, win-loss record of 266 or 121, postseason 31-13, 6-time Super Bowl champion. This is the consistency fans want to see. It's Bill and a soft spot for the Giants, by the way. I just want to let you know. But I think Bill Belichick's going to be
Eli. He's 73. He's 73.
You can talk me into that.
You see his
rebuilding with a
girlfriend.
73-year-old, and Jordan Hudson's going to be walking around on the sideline, and the Mara family's going to be standing right there.
Do you see his girlfriend? She's keeping him young and vibrant. All right, Bill Belichick's the guy.
I can be talked into it if he makes legitimate assistant hires.
Yeah.
You know, if the guys he's hiring around him are legitimate guys and it's not his son and it's not, well, Bill's going to take over this position and that position like he was doing at the end of New England. If you tell me he's going to bring in his guys, I could be talked into it. He's not number one, but you can convince me.
Jordan, if Belichick comes in for an interview, do the Maras kiss the ring and do the whole thing? I know Arthur Blank did not in Atlanta, and I know Belichick was looking for that. Could you see a situation where Belichick is actually considered for the head coaching job?
I could see definitely some back channel conversations going on, and maybe it develops. And I just have a hard time. I get caught on the Jordan Hudson thing. That's just where I'm at right now. Can you imagine, like, he brings her on the sideline there, and she's like, pretending like she's a big shot on the Giants sideline? I don't know. I just have a hard time envisioning it at this point. I think it's probably best to not go in that direction. If I'm sitting here, you're saying, who's the right guy? Who would I like to see, who I think can rebuild the Giants? And I put this on my list. How about Marcus Freeman from Notre Dame? Here's why.
Wow. Okay. All right. Let's go.
Here's why. Exactly. I think, and you know who's really good at this, and I don't care if you're a Giant fan, you have to respect what they do and how they operate. The Philadelphia Eagles, when they hire coaches, don't go hire coaches for X's and O's. We keep getting caught in this stupidity. Everybody around the league, I don't get it. Like you said, it's a leader of men. It's not the best offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator. Marcus Freeman, I met him. When he talks, you just want to listen. He's done an amazing job at Notre Dame, and a job, by the way, when he got there, that wasn't, we were like, okay, it wasn't quite looked at the same level. He's supposed to be a really good coach. They went in. I know everyone's going to say, I'm drawing a blank on the James Franklin. Yeah. Went in there at halftime. He completely outcoached him in the semifinals last year. I know people say, James Franklin can coach himself out of a bag, but Marcus Freeman is an impressive guy, an impressive coach. And I think a guy like that can definitely come in. He's young. I know it's a big risk. He doesn't have NFL coaching experience. He did play in the league. He was in the league for a minute. He's a defensive guy at heart, a linebacker. He's 39 years old. I know it's a little risky, but if you, I like the idea. I'm a big risk taker. So, I mean, I just like the idea of him coming in and being an overarching leader. He has to bring in the right coordinators. He's got to come in with a really good plan for Jaxson Dart and bring in the right guy. Hey, Davis Webb, you want to come over here? Maybe you know, there's a guy. But you bring a nice plan like that, I could buy that. Or you know what? Even Mike Kafka. You want to keep Mike Kafka as an offensive coordinator? If he worked with Jaxson Dart, he was in charge of Mahomes' development that first year when Mahomes was a rookie. Like, that was basically his job that year. That's all he pretty much did. Like, I'm all right with something like that. Marcus Freeman. I think it would be a good move.
Okay, I like all three of these. McCarthy, Belichick, Freeman. Now I want you guys to give your second pick, and then we'll wrap it here. Let's start with Ditro. If you can't have one of those three, give us maybe a different pick that you have pondering in your head that you'd like to get a sniff around.
The problem is that my number 2 guy that I think would do a really good job is locked up in litigation with the Giants. Like, I like Brian Flores a lot. Like,
that makes it very tough.
He also has a track record of some success as a head coach in this league in a different market with different players, different world down in Miami. But he's also a local guy. If I'm not mistaken, he's a Brooklyn guy. I think he would bring a certain toughness to the locker room and a certain toughness to the defense that they lack right now. And I don't want to do a deep dive on Shane Bowen and everything that's gone wrong in that direction, because I think the clock's ticking there anyway. But if there wasn't this lawsuit that was just hanging over everyone's head, I would love Brian Flores as my number 2 guy right
Brian
now.
Flores interviewed for the Giants job last time.
Would be the third straight Belichick guy, by the way.
Interesting. Yes.
I'm okay with that. And just to address Marcus Freeman, I'm a huge Notre Dame fan. I didn't even want to put it into the ether that Marcus Freeman should be looked at, but I completely and totally agree with the Marcus Freeman look. Everything about him.
Giants have ties to Notre Dame.
Leader. What's that?
The Giants have ties to Notre Dame.
Everybody has ties to Notre Dame.
Just saying.
Somewhere along the line, somewhere in the Mara family, it's probably a graduate and has a degree from Notre Dame.
Luke Pettigrew went to Notre Dame. All right, I like that pick with Flores. To your point, just to give the listener who might not be aware, obviously Flores still has an open case against the league, but the Giants are listed as people in that lawsuit because of the story. If you remember, Belichick haphazardly texting the wrong Brian, was texting Daboll, not Flores. It all ties together. Eli,
can we back channel
that? Was Belichick's fault. Belichick, what do we want to hire? Belichick. Everybody's involved. Come on.
Can we back channel that? Put a settlement deal on the table. Yes. And here's a contract as head coach. I mean, what are we talking about here?
Yes, you could. You could settle. It's all part of the deal. You could. Pablo Torre can do a research on this, but the Giants settle with Brian Flores and then give him a monster contract to be the next head coach. Eli, give me another guy. Give me another name. Let's throw another one into the ether here.
I think a lot of people will like this guy, Clint Kubiak, right? Coming from a long list of families of coaching. Not only that, the Kyle Shanahan tree, but
Kubiak is the Seahawks offensive coordinator with San Francisco and New Orleans last year.
Isn't it? It's like this guy comes in here again within the top 10 in all categories, saying what he's doing with Sam Darnold and that team over there at the Seahawks. You got to be impressed. You got to be like, man, listen, this guy can actually lead some people here and can lead Jaxson Dart into the future of becoming a great quarterback. So what he's doing with Sam Darnold is something special, even though the Vikings had their shot. But to continue that success over there is absolutely incredible. And for Jaxson Dart, which you got a great quarterback, which that's the key of getting all these good coaches over. Here's Jaxson Dart. He got to be salivating at the mouth a little bit. So for me, Clint Kubiak from the Seahawks, offensive coordinator, come on in, man. Come lead this team and lead this offense to be something great. Something Daboll should have done. But hey, here we are.
I like that. And our last one, and then I'm going to throw a name out there. We're all going to discuss it. Jordan, give me one more.
Yeah, real quick. I'm eliminating from these conversations, like the Mike Tomlin, John Harbaugh,
fair.
Kevin
Stefanski. We're not speculating. Yeah.
Those guys become available. Every team in the league should be interested. It's looking for a coach. Like, those guys are established guys. So with that being said, I was waffling here back and forth between David Shaw, but I'm going to go with Jesse Minter.
Okay.
Defensive coordinator for the Chargers. Jim Harbaugh's guy. Was with Baltimore, Michigan, like supposed to be really sharp.
Same kind of track record as Mike McDonald in Seattle, if you just want to know, with the Harbaugh brothers being the constant. Yep.
And so he's very well respected. I expect him to be involved in the Giants interview process. And so for that reason, I'll say that is I think there's a lot of potential there. That definitely intrigues me right there.
It's great. All right, we're gonna wrap soon, but I'm gonna say one name that I want all of us to have an open conversation. Jon Gruden. Jordan, your thoughts.
Let me start by putting a rein on the parade, okay? Jon Gruden was in Las Vegas, and it went poorly at the end, right? He kind of got pushed out of the league. His relationship with Roger Goodell, who's very close with the Giants organization, I would say it's probably not especially strong these days. I mean, I'm assuming here to some degree.
Who do the Giants care about? Roger Goodell's approval, or do they care about winning football games? I would be very concerned if they didn't hire someone over Roger Goodell's approval.
I agree, but I just think I don't think that, John Mara is going to be the first guy he's interested in going to interview. On top of the fact, I mean, this is half tongue in cheek. On top of that, the last time the guy won a playoff game was 2007. Okay. I mean, that's like a different era of football at this point. I think it's past the time for Jon Gruden. That would be like an old turn back the clock kind of move. That would not excite me if I were a fan of the Giants.
Okay. Ditro?
So as entertaining as it would be, and I'm not ready for the circus to come to town. And I know that I just said a little while ago I could be talked into Bill Belichick and his circus, but Bill Belichick comes. I mean, that's a Mount Rushmore guy. So yeah. I don't. Ringling Brothers could follow him behind into the stadium. Doesn't matter to me. That's fine. I can accept that circus coming into town. But the Jon Gruden circus and everything that comes with it, he's a hell of a coach. But Jordan, you just nailed it. Like, it's been a long time since he's had any success. He's a long way removed from the league. If I want an old, proven track record coach, there are other guys that I could pick before him that will at least it'll be a little bit quieter, and it'll be about football. It'll be about winning football games rather than about him, the head coach. So I think I'd be out on him.
Eli.
Listen, Jon Gruden, I know a lot of Giants fans is like Jon Gruden because he had that interview with Jaxson Dart and he was so invested in him, and everybody's like, yeah, he loves him. You see, he'll get him to coach him right. I'm telling you right now.
He told him he needs to get down. I mean,
yeah, right. That's the only thing. That's the only thing, right? But let's peel back the onion a little bit, right? Win-loss record, 122 wins, 116 loss, regular season, 117 wins, 112 losses, postseason 5-4. And when he came back to coach after he's been out the league for quite some time, he was in Las Vegas, right? 22 wins and 31 losses. Guys, he resigned because of some controversy there. That ship has sailed. It is gone, all right? Jon Gruden just won't be the fit here for the Giants. Now, again, we are Giant, we're Giants fans, right? Well, some of them cover the team. But we understand the Giants way. We get it. This is something John Mara is not going to be in tune with. Like, great guy, good coach, but he's mid. To me, Jon Gruden is just not a perfect fit here. His ship has sailed. Give me Belichick. If I'm going to take a risk on a guy, give me Belichick.
Okay.
The last playoff win was 2002.
Yep.
Good God.
Yep. 25-year anniversary is coming up. We can celebrate. Right? We love celebrating old anniversaries.
That was the Tampa Super Bowl win. That was their last Jon Gruden play. All right,
me and my wife started dating then. Jeez,
there you go. There you go. Super Bowl in San Diego. I'll never forget it. All right, Eli, thank you once again. Plug your podcast. Where can we listen to it? What's it called?
Guys, if you can, man, you can follow me at I am Eli Racks. But most importantly, the New York Revival podcast, man. You can catch us on Spotify, iTunes, also on YouTube every Tuesday live for you guys. We talk nothing but Giants, and of course Fridays and Mondays we talk around the NFL and also the things within New York sports as well. We also do comedy sketches for you guys too, which is amazing too. So if you can, New York Revival, guys, follow us there. We're all my other two co-hosts, Mr. Glass Half Full and El Jefe, and of course we see you guys there. It's your boy Eli Racks. Yes, sir.
Love that. Awesome. Jordan, talk about where we can find you and give a little love for your book. There it is. I love this book. I read it in 3 days.
Yeah. Amazon, Barnes & Noble, any of the big bookstores, also online, all the book retailers. I'll be at the Freehold Barnes & Noble.
No.
Peter, you know something about that.
I do.
Saturday, that's my hometown here right now.
Let's
so
go.
this is a little hometown era. So it'll be me and my friends.
Is there still a Chili's next to the Barnes & Noble, or the Chili's no longer there?
Of course there's a Chili's.
Okay.
The racetrack has been shut
That's
down.
long gone.
No, I mean, not long gone, just last year.
Oh, the racetrack. I thought you meant the Freehold Circle, which people
yeah,
still
yeah.
talk about.
People don't even know what you're talking about anymore. Now we're just old people.
That's it.
Ditro. Yeah, anywhere you find your books, I'm on.
And then Jordan's all over ESPN.com and obviously on SportsCenter. You can see him all over ESPN. Ditro, anything you want to plug? Do you want to plug your insurance work? You can do
Nothing to plug on my end. You really can't even find me anywhere on Twitter. You can find me in Peter's text message threads on his iPhone. That's about it.
That is it. That's probably the best place to be. Guys, thank you so much for joining. This was really fun. I appreciate all three of you, and you guys are taking time out of your busy day. This was good. I like this. And there you have it. That's the Giants story of the day. And you can see how passionate those guys are. It's funny listening to Jordan, who covers them on a daily basis, try to counter two diehard fans. And, the diehard fans, they know their stuff. That's the beauty of this podcast. Some days we're going to have Sean McVay, NFL head coach of the year. And then some days we're going to have three different voices talking about a very specific thing, the Giants head coaching hire. I love this. And I love the idea of what's going to happen with this Giants coaching cycle and all the names that come in. We will see. One thing to note, and we didn't really hit it in that conversation, is John Mara is currently ill. Obviously, it was announced. We don't know the exact state of where he's at with that. So whereas in other years, Mr. Mara might be one to say, hey, just throw it all on my shoulders. It does seem like it's a product of both Shane, the GM, having an ability to do this and play a leadership role, but also I believe he's going to be playing a bigger role simply because we're not sure of how well and how much John Mara could do in his current state. And we wish him well. One of the truly great men of the NFL and a guy who's always been really good to a lot of us in the media and has been treated us with a lot of respect. So we just wish for his health, and let's obviously wish him well as we sign off on this podcast. So for another episode of the Schrager Hour, I'm Peter Schrager, joined by our great producers behind the scenes, Grillo, Jack, Tucker, Rochelle, fantastic as always, guiding this ship, and then our DJ Leverage with the music. But till next week, we've got a beauty with this Seattle versus Rams game. I cannot wait for that one. Circle it on the calendar. You just got to find it because it's not going to be promoted as a Sunday night game. As I said, it's in that little regional window up against Nance and Romo. It's a 4:00 game. Seahawks-Rams, Olsen and Joe Davis on the call. Enjoy it. Can't wait. We'll break it all down next week.